Thank you. My name's Jason LeBlanc, and I'm from Estevan. I have to give you a little bit of a credit for one thing is you handle yourself well in these situations, but I think the reason for that is because you're used to it. People are turning on you, and you're starting to get really good at circling around on these answers here, and that's what I'm seeing tonight. My question is very broad. For a lot of you sitting in here right now, don't realize what's going on right out those doors. There's a huge protest, and there's lines up of semis and trucks and taxpayers' money, and it's enormous what's going on. And this is just one of the many protests that have been going on that CBC fails to report. And in the CBC that we see in Saskatchewan is not the same CBC that you see in the East, and the people need to realize that. Thank you. Now, part of my question is just for you personally, Mr. Trudeau. Have you seen, you heard of the terms of continuous cropping, green space? There's so many more things that are happening in Saskatchewan. When's the last time that you saw diesel exhaust being emitted from a diesel truck? You don't see that anymore because we've been on that. When's the last time you've seen a train going down the track belching black smoke out? You don't see that anymore. And when's the last time you saw farm tractors that used to be everybody farmed 10 quarters of land and there was 10 tractors out there going? Now they're farming 100 quarters of land with 1 or 2 tractors, and they're all not emitting this diesel and this exhaust and these fumes that you talk about. When you get onto these questions that rile me up a little bit is because a gentleman spoke earlier, and that was his words, but he talked about globalism. China is probably emitting, I'm not sure of the numbers, but how much more carbon are they emitting? And you're charging us with a carbon tax, and yet you're promoting it globally when that is not how things are to work here. And you're taking money away from us in Canada. You talked about education. We had questions up here about education and how you're going to pay for it, yet you're cutting the very arm off that puts the equalization payments down to your part of the country. So my question is, sorry, ma'am? You would like me to ask the question? You know what? I sat here and I watched your face most of the night, ma'am. And you are...
Okay, hang on. Let's not make it personal.
Okay,
let's not make it personal. Sorry, let's be respectful.
My question is, why would you charge a carbon tax on something that is not even proven to be factual and taking money away out of our pockets for Canada? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, sir. Okay. The question is, why are we putting a price on pollution? Let's start with the fact that climate change is real, and it is a challenge. A few years ago, the floods in Saskatchewan cost $600 million to Saskatchewan's economy. Every year we're seeing increases in droughts, in floods, in wildfires in BC and Fort McMurray. We're seeing more extreme weather events, from twisters to hurricanes down on the southern coasts of the United States. We are seeing an increased cost with the increase of extreme weather events. That is the cost. That is what is happening because of climate change. We know it is going to get worse. And we are right now in a situation where we are perhaps the first generation that knows how to solve this problem, but also the last generation that is actually going to be able to do anything to solve this problem and save the ecosystems and the planet that we have. That is the issue we have. So, most of us agree, we need to fight climate change, and we need to do it in a way that is going to protect our lives. Sorry, sir, I listen. Sorry, sir, I listen to you. China has a carbon tax. Okay? China has a carbon tax. Sorry. They're not doing it the way, so you think we should do things the way China does things? I know that's not what you're saying, sir. Sorry. What we need to do is look at a way that Canada can do what it needs to do to fight climate change and grow our economy and support regular people while we are making that change. That is the imperative we have. Now, at the very basic level, there is, as we've heard here, a disagreement on whether or not we have to act to fight climate change. I think we do. I know many Canadians think we do. There are some people, including the Conservative Party of Canada, that does not think we need to fight climate change. They have no plan to do that. They are not putting forward a plan to do that. That is something I think Canadians should be thoughtful about when we make a decision next fall about who we're going to vote for in the next election. But I am unequivocal, and it's a differentiation point if you like. I think we need to absolutely fight climate change, and I think we need to do it in a way that supports regular people through this change. That's why what we're moving forward with by putting a price on pollution, because very simply, and you're wondering how it works, we have carbon pollution in our atmosphere because it has been free for polluters to emit carbon pollution into our atmosphere for a long time. There is no cost associated with polluting the atmosphere. If you put a price on pollution, people then find it worth their while as large emitters, as polluters, to look for ways to reduce the price they have to pay for polluting the atmosphere. So by putting a price on pollution, we incentivize people to pollute less. It's basic economics. You want less of something, put a price on it. We want less pollution. We need less pollution, so we'll put a price on it. However, and I understand your concern on this. I understand people's concern about affordability. They're worried that this means higher costs for them. Well, I can tell you that in Saskatchewan, the price we are putting on pollution will leave the average family $200 better off in the first year. Over the course of the next years, until full implementation, it gets up to $1,300 better off for the average Saskatchewan family while we put a price on pollution. And if you live outside of Regina or Saskatoon, like in Estevan, you actually get a 10% top-up to that because we recognize the extra costs borne by rural communities across this country. On top of that, farm diesel and farm gasoline is not subject to the price on pollution. We are working to make sure that as we move towards an economy and a world with less pollution, we support regular people through that change. That has been our focus from the very beginning. When we lowered taxes on the middle class, when we brought in the CCB, when we, in the Canada Child Benefit, when we increased the guaranteed income supplement for seniors, our focus is on when we increase bursaries for students, our focus is on making sure that Canadians can afford the cost of living. And that applies to the fact that in Saskatchewan, with our price on pollution, the average family will be $200 better off in the first year. That is our approach. And the choice that folks will have in the next election comes down to, do you want to be part of not just fighting climate change, but being part of creating the solutions and a stronger economy for the future? Or do you want to hide your head in the sand and pretend that there is no problem we have to deal with? I know unequivocally which path I'm choosing, and that is what the Liberal Party of Canada will be demonstrating in the ride up to the next election.